This is the employee orientation for 1 John Henry Drive. The topics that we're going to discuss today are site information, contacts, project overview, project location, safety, safety equipment, emergency procedures, medical emergency procedure, incident reporting, evacuation, hospital, personal hygiene, hazard communication, PPE, housekeeping, ladders, forklifts, equipment lifts, cranes and vehicles, safe workplace practices, reports and checklists, safety trainings, and then we will go over some questions if you have any. The site information are, the site hours are from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. There will be site open shortly before 7 to allow for parking and weekly meetings. Smoking and vaping will be allowed in designated areas only. Contacts are the site superintendent, Robbie Richardson, the project manager, Eric Grace, the field operations manager, Joshua Goldberg, and the safety director, Adam Brurs. Project overview is, this is a rooftop system and ground mount screw system. There's a 7,380 module total, 5,369 modules on the roof, 1,701 modules on the ground. There's a 2,730 kilowatt DC total power for the system that we're installing here. Here is a map overview of the project location. It's at the McKesson Pharmaceutical Manufacturing Building. Now, this orientation is not all-encompassing, and the policies and regulations not detailed here are applicable. Please see the Borrego Solar Written Safety Programs for more information. All OSHA, state, and local regulations will be strictly followed. Disciplinary procedures are 1 verbal, 2 written, 3 termination. There is a 0 tolerance for the removal of locks, tags, or warning devices. All things with warning devices must be left on. Safety continued. Weekly safety meetings will be held by Borrego at the Borrego Project Trailers prior to start work on Monday mornings. All on-site personnel must attend the meeting. Attendance will be documented. All subcontractors will be required to hold daily safety job briefings and toolbox talks. Attendance will need to be documented. All subcontractors will be required to fill out daily reports and submit copies to Borrego Site Superintendent weekly. All subcontractors are required to complete daily equipment checklists and submit copies to the Borrego Site Superintendent weekly also. Safety continued. All personnel are encouraged to ask questions to ensure understanding about their work activities. Anyone witnessing an unsafe condition or activity should report this immediately to their supervisor or Borrego Site Superintendent. All personnel have the authority to stop work if any unsafe conditions are identified. All incidents, injuries, spills, property damage must be reported immediately to the supervisor and Borrego Site Superintendent. An incident report will be required to be completed. Each incident will need to be investigated, and then a corrective action form filled out. Safety equipment. At least 2 first aid responders trained in first aid and CPR must always be available on site. Refer to the emergency contact list. First aid kits, eye wash, and bloodborne pathogen cleanup kits are available in the project trailer. Spill kits must be available on site. Emergency contact information is available in the project trailer. Fire extinguishers must have current inspections and must be within 25 to 75 feet of the hazard and must be accessible. Emergency procedures. When an incident, injury, spill, property damage occurs, the following sequence of reporting events will be followed. If a medical attention is required, alert the first responders. For life-threatening emergencies, dial 911. Refer to the medical emergency procedures section for more information. Alert the supervisor and Borrego Site Superintendent immediately. Alert all personnel necessary to control further loss. Refer to the emergency contact information in the project trailer. Medical emergency procedures. Dial 911 or the appropriate medical emergency phone number. Provide the following information: nature of emergency, the location, caller's name and phone number. Do not move the victim unless absolutely necessary. Alert personnel who have been trained in first aid to provide assistance prior to the arrival of professional medics. Report the situation to the supervisor on the Borrego Site Superintendent immediately. Incident reporting. The incident must be reported as follows. Reporting all incidents to the Borrego Site Superintendent, who will follow Borrego protocol for reporting the incident to Borrego personnel. Report all fatalities to OSHA within 8 hours of the incident. Report all work-related inpatient hospitalizations, amputations, or losses of an eye to OSHA within 24 hours of an incident. If working at another company's location, report all incidents to the owner-client within 24 hours of the incident, and conduct an incident investigation after the incident is under control. Emergency evacuation procedures. 3 long air horn blasts will indicate that the site needs to be evacuated. Proceed in a calm, orderly manner to the muster location at the job site trailer. Primarily meeting point is at the Borrego project trailer. Report to your designated foreman superintendent in the designated area for a head count. Here's a map overview of the first major hospital. It is a little bit further than the clinic that is listed in the next map. Both of these will be in the job trailer. So if it is a minor injury, I believe that you would probably want to go to the closest one. For major injuries, the first map is the major hospital. Personal hygiene. Remove gloves and wash hands prior to consuming food or smoking or vaping. Wash hands with soap and water or rubbing alcohol, at least 60% alcohol, for 20 seconds after using the portable toilet or after unavoidably sneezing or coughing into your hand. Sneeze and cough into a tissue, disregard immediately, or into your elbow. Use disinfectant wipes or sprays to regularly clean shared equipment, tools, and surfaces. If unwell, leave work, stay home. Maintain social distance of 6 feet throughout the day and for all meetings, gathering, breaks, and lunch. Wear face coverings if cannot maintain social distancing. For those of you who need a diagram on how to wash your hands, here is one. I can get this printed for you if you need to investigate it further. Hazard communication. Contractors must have JHAs available for work tasks being performed. There must be reviewed regularly with employees prior to performing the task. Chemical containers must have appropriate GHS labeling. Fuel containers, including fuel trucks, must be properly identified. SDS sheets must be readily available to all personnel. Written SDS are kept on site. When electronic SDS are used, they must always be accessible. I will have both. PPE. Hard hat protection is required at all times. Eye protection is required at all times. No street eyewear is permitted unless approved safety over the glasses or goggles are worn. Hand protection is required at all times. Safety toe foot protection is required at all times. Foot protection includes work boots, EH-rated boots, rubber boots, and similar appropriate footwear with composite or steel toe caps. PPE continued. Ear protection is voluntary unless noise is over 85 decibels. Face shields are required when cutting, grinding, chipping, etc. Clothing, long pants in good condition. No shorts are allowed. Shirts must have sleeves at least 4 inches long. Class 2 safety vests or Class 2 clothing must be worn. Class 2 has reflective striping over the safety yellow or safety orange background material. Arc flash PPE may be required for specific electrical tasks. Next up, we have housekeeping. This project is clean as you go. All trash and debris must be cleaned up and disposed of in dumpsters. This includes lunch break trash. A messy job site will not be tolerated. We reserve the right to hire labor and perform cleanup and back-charge the subcontractors responsible for the mess. So it's very important to keep trash as you go. Ladders. Employees shall be trained on ladder safety and use. No aluminum or painted wood ladders are permitted. Inspect all ladders before each use. Remove damaged ladders from the job site. Use the 3 points of contact rule when climbing and descending a ladder. Always face forward on a ladder when climbing, descending, and doing work. And next is ladders continued. Never use an A-frame step ladder as a straight ladder. Exception: if the ladder is designed to be both a step ladder and a straight ladder, then it may be used. Never use the top 3 steps of an extension ladder or the top 2 of an A-frame ladder. And never store or leave materials or tools unattended on the steps of a ladder, for when you go to move it, they can easily fall off and cause injuries. Forklifts, equipment lifts, cranes, and vehicles. Equipment must only be operated by a trained and certified operator. Proof of training and certifications must be on hand at all times while operating the equipment. When the view is obstructed by an overhead load, a spotter is mandatory. Backup alarms must be present on all vehicles. Always follow the manufacturer's operating instructions for all equipment and tools when used on this project, and whenever possible, drive in a forward motion. Safe work practices, common hazards, and safe work practices for conditions you may be exposed to on the job site include, but are not limited to, fire extinguishers, which must be kept within 50 feet of the hazard and readily available. Equipment must contain a fire extinguisher. Flammable storage. Ensure flammable chemicals are properly stored and away from combustibles, stored in appropriate containers, at least 20 feet away from a building, and a fire extinguisher within 50 feet. Safe workplace practices continued. Barricade tape. Caution and danger tape must be used to mark areas of safety concern. Caution is for lesser hazards and danger for high hazards. Overhead lines. Work performed overhead, fall hazards, in confined spaces. Do not remove barricades nor cross over or under without permission. Lockout, tagout devices. These are placed on equipment by authorized employees. Do not remove any locks or tags. There is a zero tolerance for the removal of locks and lockout, tagout devices. Safe workplace practices continued. Rebar. Caps must be placed on all exposed rebar, conduit, stakes, etc. that may present an impalement hazard. If caps are unavailable, use a piece of wood or other material to place on top. Rigging, chains, slings, etc. must be inspected before each use and must contain the load capacity rating label. Only use approved rigging methods while lifting. If utilizing a lull to lift equipment, slings are not to be hooked up directly to the forks of the lift. Use the appropriate lifting mechanism to perform the lift. Safe workplace practices continued. Prior to use, inspect tools for damage and defects. Never remove guards or disable safety devices. Do not leave power tools unplugged when in front or used while adjusting. Keep the workspace area clean to prevent slips, trips, and falls. Keep others a safe distance away. Wear appropriate PPE. And next up, we will have safe work practices continued for equipment operation. Pre-use inspections must be completed and documented prior to operating equipment or machinery each day. Equipment or machinery must not be left unattended while on. Unattended means the operator is not within 25 feet of the equipment or within line of sight. So if you have a piece of equipment running, you cannot get out of it and then walk all the way to the other side of the job site. You have to be within 25 or within line of sight. And next we have reports and checklists. All subcontractors are required to document and provide documentation weekly to the Borrego Site Superintendent for the following: daily equipment checklists, daily job briefings, weekly toolbox talks, daily reports, daily equipment checklists. All subcontractors are required to immediately report incidents, injuries, spills, property damage to the Borrego Site Superintendent. An incident report is required to be completed. Each incident needs to be investigated, and we will fill out a corrective action form for each incident. Next is safety training. Subcontractors are required to provide workers who are trained as required by OSHA standards, state regulations, and site policies. Proof of training must be available upon request. All operators must be trained and certified to operate forklifts, aerial lifts, cranes, and etc. Licenses must be available upon request. So, if anyone has any questions or concerns about the orientation, feel free to reach out to me via phone or email. I am open and I'm always available.